Okay. All right, so we're just here chattering away and people are starting to enter the room.
Hello, everybody.
Lucky you weren't talking
Welcome.
smack about the students anymore, Jean. Lucky I
Hi,
cut you
everyone.
off right before they all entered. How
Don't rush
dare
me
you
on
speak
the
about our
other
students like that? How dare you?
Oh,
I
love
had your
your
backs,
hair.
guys. I had your
That looks
backs.
great. Your hair looks lovely. Have you had it changed?
Who are you talking to, me or Jean?
Jean's hair. Yeah.
Oh, what about mine? I just had a haircut yesterday.
I had a blow dry yesterday from a different hairdresser, and I'm also in Canberra, and there's no humidity here, so it might be that.
Well, it's probably the first time in ever I can say welcome to sunny Melbourne.
Wonderful.
Good to see you. Thank you for marking off my funeral stuff as well, Jean. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's one of my tasks. Okay, welcome
Yeah,
everybody
welcome
else.
everyone. Is
Hello.
everyone in? We might have a few more coming, but
Yeah.
so be it. We'll get started anyway. But and I just want to make it clear, because Jean told me when I was drinking this on screen that it looked like I was drinking a beer. But I'm turning the bottle so you all can see that it's not. It's too early for that. It's ginger and lime. It's actually a health drink. All right.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Okay.
It does look like you're having a beer, but
does
you know
look a little
what?
bit like
It's 12:02, so it's okay. Well, it's actually 1:02 where I am.
102 where you are.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go.
Anyone
Yeah.
in WA, we apologise if there's offence to drinking what looks like a beer early in the morning. Okay.
All right. So welcome. Well, firstly, before we get started proper, let's Jean, just tell us a little bit about where you are and why you are in a hotel room at the moment, following your dreams.
Okay, and we have Frozen.
Who's frozen? Now, I will jump in before Jean starts talking. Ah, she just froze. This is her fault, and I'm going to tell you why. Because before she traveled, she got on the plane yesterday. She said, "Don't worry, the internet connection where I go is fantastic. It's a lot of politicians hang out there for their conferences, and so they got to have a very good Wi-Fi connection, so it never goes wrong." And I said, "Jean, what did you just do? You never say nothing is going to go wrong, because then everything's going to go wrong." And she forgot to knock on wood. Look at her sitting there with her nice new hairdo. Jean? Okay, that's all right. I'll get it started and hopefully she'll rejoin us in a moment. But what we're talking about today, firstly, welcome everyone. Oh, she's probably dipped out and she's going to try and come back on. It's kind of appropriate that she's having this moment, because it's kind of what we're talking about today, is the little things that can go wrong and how to prepare for them. So welcome everyone, celebrants and celebrants to be or not to be. That is a question. No, that is not the question, because the answer is you are all shall be celebrants. So my name is Nate Hamon. Some of you that weren't here in the last session may have not gotten to know me yet. But I am a celebrant. I'm going to call myself a part-time celebrant. I just do it for a bit of fun on the side, but I'm head of learning and strategy at Rose Training Australia. So I help take care of the courses and help upgrade the courses and check if anything's going wrong with them and how we can improve them, all those sorts of things. And my background is in RTOs, where I had a training provider in fitness for many years before I came over to Rose and started helping them out. Yes, but I have had a lot of experience in performance. So I've been performing as a frontman for a band for many years, taken it on the road and toured around the world with it. It's been quite fun, and I've emceed many events. So that's where I come from in this, and that's my background and experience that I can use to talk about some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Jean, she is pretty much the boss of everything. Not just the boss of Rose, boss of everything. Boss of weddings in general. Oh, she heard me before she got back on.
I heard you. I am back. My little Rita paddling under the table thinking, oh my God, the Zoom's gone. It's back.
She turned it back on and back off again, right? So I told everyone, I told everyone that you forgot to knock on wood when you claimed that there would be no internet issues. And so it's all your fault.
It is all my fault.
But yes, so that's my background, performing, MC work, stagecraft, and I love to talk about those sorts of things. While Jean, she's done tons and tons of weddings.
From
This is going to be fun, isn't it, Jean? Okay. All right. So what we might do then is I have some questions to ask of Jean. I am going to skip over those and go to my section that I was going to bring in towards the end, which is all about microphone technique, including proximity, some of the articulation exercises you can do, all those sorts of things. So I was going to leave that for a bit of fun at the end. I'm going to come to it now, and then we can come back to Jean when she gets back on. When she gets back on, we're going to talk about three things, which is one, understanding the venue that you're going to, two, the human resources, and three, what you need to bring, or the little things, like basically a celebrant emergency kit. Okay, cool. But let's get to my mini lesson. So, firstly, the PA. Now, some of you... Okay, so sorry, Zach has just told me something. Okay, cool. So some of you are going to use PAs. You can give me a little love heart or hands up if you already have a PA, what sort of PA you use. Does everyone know the difference between a PA and an amplifier? Because what a lot of musicians will use is an amplifier, and there's some very good amplifiers out there that can be utilized as a PA as well. It just depends what you're after. So we have a really good one. My wife and I use this little one. It's called an AER, and it is powerful. It is tiny, but it is powerful, and I use that as a PA. It can be, but a lot of amplifiers are not. Well, technically speaking, they're called amplifier combos, but don't worry about those technicalities. So we use that, but a lot of amplifiers are made specifically for instruments and not for microphones. So you wouldn't bother with that. You would strictly get a PA. The portable PAs are what a celebrant will use because you're using them in spaces like outdoor spaces. You're carrying them around with you. So what you want to look for firstly is the EQ controls, the gain and the volume. All right, and there are three EQ controls that you want to look for, and the gain and the volume. So only 5 things that you should worry about, unless you're an engineer, technical expert, and that sort of thing. Just worry about those 5 things. Okay. Number 1 is the gain. That will depend on how sensitive the mic is. So the gain, G-A-I-N, gain. Second is the volume. That's about how loud the speaker will be. Always set the gain first, all right? And then you set the volume second. You twiddle with them, play with them. You do not want to max out either one. So be very careful with that one. Find the perfect setting for you. Have someone at the back if you can. Have someone, whether it's a roadie or a friend, or if you don't have someone traveling with you, ask someone in the wedding party or a guest. Don't be shy of it. Of course, you want to be doing all this well before the wedding party arrives, but there will always be someone floating. It could be the wedding venue owner. Have them stand at the back, have them stand at the corner of one side of the room, have them stand at the other side, because you're usually going to, if you're using a portable PA, it's a one speaker, or at least just in one compartment PA, right? It's not like 2 speakers like you would find in a big gig where you got a big stage and 2 front of house speakers. It's just the one setup. So you want to make sure that it's nice and high, especially if it's outdoors, so that can project across the crowd. You want to make sure that that is set up not facing the couple. All right, always avoid that. Make sure it's not facing the couple, and make sure that it's not facing your microphone. Otherwise, you're going to get feedback, and that's very annoying and very uncomfortable for everyone. All right. Then, so you've got the gain and the volume. You've got your speaker set up nice and high, facing slightly away from the couple, but towards the audience, so that all of them can be encapsulated by the sound. All right. And then you're going to fiddle around with those 3 things that I talked about: the mid, the treble, and the bass. Now, this all depends on your voice and the tone of your voice. Every one of us has a different tonal quality to our voice, right? If you have a deep voice with a lower bass, all right. If you speak like this, if you speak, who's that singer that sings really low? It's not coming to me. If you have a really deep voice, there we go. Jean, can you stick with us? Stop running away.
Well, okay. I think for the
Are you on your phone?
yeah, I'm on my phone.
Yeah,
So
I can see that.
I did not panic. My feet were going at a million miles an hour underneath the table, and I have come in on my phone, and I know the internet will be stable.
Beautiful.
Yay.
See how she didn't panic, guys?
No.
That's exactly what we're talking about today. I didn't panic either. Not much.
Good.
I mean, yeah. I mean, internally, I was in a fetal position, but externally, everyone thinks I'm cool as. I think it's my flamingo shirt that's keeping me nice and cool.
And that is a good example. Yeah, the flamingos will really do it. That is a good example of what can happen in a wedding ceremony
Oh,
and how you just need to
100%.
keep it moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think I need to take a sip from my ginger and lime health drink now.
Deserved.
I will be getting a beer after this for sure. But I jumped ahead of the questions I'm going to ask you, Jean.
Yeah, okay.
I'm touching really quickly on the basic setup of your PA and what to look for.
Yep.
So I've gone over making sure you work with the gain first and then the volume to follow up from that. Okay, and then the three knobs that you look at: the mid, the bass, and the treble.
Yep.
Okay, those are the three main things. That some fancy PAs will have a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But those are the three main things that you need to worry about. Again, so number one, deep voice. Think treble. If you've got a really deep, low, bassy voice, increase the treble. Okay, that's going to give it a bit of height. If you have a soft, muffled voice, raise the mid slightly and the treble. So those two will work together, and that will give some crispness to your voice. Okay, so the mid and the treble, bring those up softly. Lower the bass a little bit if you need to. Just make sure the bass is not high. If you've got one of those soft muffled voices, and someone's hired you because they like the way your voice sounds, but you still need it to cut through. Okay, and if you've got more of a harsh voice, if you've got a real Aussie sort of twang, you may need to lower the treble a little bit. All right, guys. All right. So if you've got a voice that just cuts like a knife, again, someone's hired you because they enjoy your voice and listening to it, but you don't want it to slice through the audience's ears and cut the ears off. So you're going to lower the treble a little bit on that one. Okay. You may raise the bass a little bit. So just those three buttons, those three knobs are really all you've got to worry about if you set everything else to sort of just a mid-range or zero. Tiny adjustments equal big results. All right. Okay. So that's a nutshell of how to set up the PA. Now I'm going to go to you, Jean. Now we can go back to the start of where we were supposed to start.
Yeah.
So you have. We want to talk about a smooth, stress-free professional wedding day, what it actually looks like, how you can achieve it consistently, because when we focus only on the big picture, the dress, the aisle, the couple, we can miss some of the little things, or the small things. And those little things, they're like the Lego pieces that you step on. Like, picture this. It's a beautiful day. You're inside the house. The front door is open. You can see outside, and you're like, ooh, I want to go outside. And so you're looking straight out, and you walk towards it barefoot, and bang, you step straight onto a single piece of Lego because you weren't looking. We're going to talk about what some of those little pieces of Lego are and how you prepare for them and how you can see them ahead of time so you don't end up stepping on them barefoot. Is that a good little analogy there?
Yeah, it is.
Metaphor?
And how many of us have stepped on Lego? So we know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking
Know what
about.
it feels like. All of us have had kids or just Lego fans. So Jean, you've run billions of weddings at this stage, or maybe not quite a billion, but
Maybe
close.
not billions, but yeah, a few.
But pretty close.
Yeah.
When we talk about a smooth celebrant experience, I imagine there are many little things that need to be considered. So let's start simple with the very first thing you want to consider. Or let's start with the venue, rather. Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. A wedding venue can either make your life incredibly easy or incredibly chaotic.
Yes.
So what do celebrants need to know about the venue before the ceremony begins?
Okay. All right. So the venue, the basics, how to get there, where to park, how long is it going to take you to get there, and what might be the obstacles in your way before you get there. Then the venue itself, what is the setup like? Are you inside? Are you outside? If you're inside, that talk about setting up your PA system becomes very important. You've got to do a sound check. You've got to make sure that the acoustics are favourable in your favour and the guest's favour inside. If you're outside, it's the same again. You need to do a test with the audio. You will probably not have power if you are outside. So does your equipment lend itself to battery operation? Some venues outside do have power points in the garden. So you need to know, what you've got. Can you plug in? Can't you plug in? If you can't plug in, will your equipment, suffice on the day? Your certificates, how are you going to protect those certificates outside, on the beach? Some of you might have seen my Instagram for last weekend where the coordinators were trying to wrap the pink ribbon around the arbour and the winds were cyclonic. They got that sorted and my paperwork was sorted because it was clipped down multiple times on the in the folders and nice and safe. If you're in a park, maybe it's not windy, but you do have the situation of, birds dropping on your certificate. So you want to make your certificate safe. So we're looking at, sorry, Nate, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. You told me a story recently. Just really quickly tell that about the bird droppings.
Oh, okay. Yes. So,
because it's important to have these stories so we know it's not just flights. We're not just making these things up. These happen. These things happen.
I'll tell the pen story, making sure you got your pens for the signing as well. Okay. So I did a wedding on a farm, people's property. They had beehives on the farm very quickly. The bees were let go the day before the wedding so that they could eat all the pollen from this massive big native tree that was in flower so that the bees would be subdued on the day of the wedding and not cause problems to guests. But as it turned out, the bees ate way too much honey the day before and they were too fat to go back into the hives. So the day
we've all been there.
Yeah. The day of the wedding, the bees were still in this massive tree, and the tree was a very special place for the couple. They had introduced the arrival of their new baby under the tree, or the start of the pregnancy. They had met each other under this tree. The family had done everything under this tree. So this wedding was going under the tree. Anyway, arrived the day of the wedding. The bees are in the tree because they're too fat to go back into the hives. So we handed out spray bottles so that if a bee came near somebody that had too much perfume or hairspray, they weren't going to sting, but they were attracted to the scents of our hair or our perfumes. So with a spray bottle was to very carefully send the bees away. All right. So ceremony began under the tree. Bees are buzzing. It was quite beautiful, even though a lot of people were panicked about the bees. But the bees attracted the birds to the trees. I had my certificates safely tucked away under an engraved piece of timber so that it all looked nice and pretty. But the birds pooed all over the table during the ceremony in the excitement after the bees. The certificate ended up with the pattern of the carved wood all over the certificate when we went to sign. Now, I carry wet ones and I also carry a dry cloth. So we were able to wipe it off pretty cleanly so that they could go ahead and sign. Okay. You would never think that would happen in a million years.
Yeah, but these things do, and that's why we prepare for it.
Thousands of bees, Nate. Thousands of bees. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so what else do you need to touch on real quickly about the venue and ensuring? So you got to prepare for nature, guys. You got to prepare for nature. A lot of people do want it. Yeah. Yeah. On the beach, the wind.
Yeah. So I was telling Nate in preparation for today, the beach wedding that I did on the weekend, the pen blew off the table. The pen blew off the table during the ceremony and landed in the sand somewhere. Now, in preparation, you should have a couple of pens just in case the ink runs out. In this situation, the pen had blown off the table. I couldn't find it in the sand. At a quick glance, as they walked over to sign the certificates, I thought,
the pen's gone, the pen's blown off the table. That's okay. I have another pen in my bag. So I very discreetly walked over, picked up the pen out of my bag and went back to do the signing. Now, had I not had that pen, had I not prepared for outside environment, nobody on the beach had a pen on them. If we'd have been in a venue, in a chapel, it's likely that the coordinator may have had a pen on them. But yeah, it's preparing for that. And then are you working with a coordinator? Will you have a team, a coordinator who's going to cue you that the ceremony's starting? Will you be able to see the bride from where you are? Are you outside on a beach? For example, that's probably one of the more thought-provoking venues, let's say, or preparation, because you can't see generally the bridal party arrive in preparation for walking onto the beach. So there, you've got to think ahead of all of the things that you're working with in the venue and actually go through your mind step by step what all the processes are going to be leading up to the wedding and all of those elements within the wedding that you can prepare for in advance.
Great. And maybe one more thing on the venue. I assume, well, no, I don't assume, I know, you need to be aware of any restrictions. So you want to speak to that really quickly?
Restrictions as in...
so venues might, so go, sorry.
No confetti being thrown?
Like confetti, for example,
Yeah, no confetti being thrown, restrictions on actually getting there. Like there might be challenges for some people to get into the venue.
Remember, feet can go anywhere that wheels can, but wheels can't go everywhere feet can.
Feet can, and table and chairs, if we go back to the beach situation, table and chairs, the table will generally work, the chairs won't because they're going to sink into the sand a lot of the time. Depending on what the sand is like, but you have to think about those things in advance so that you can give the best advice to the couples moving forward.
Yeah, and then assume we went to a wedding, Jean, that you conducted for a common friend of ours, my sister. Jean officiated my sister's wedding, Stacey and Ben, and they had chairs on the beach, and we found that we were able to find some semi-solid-ish ground because it was close enough to the water. But I remember it's just sparked a memory. I mean, it's not quite related, but it does. Where we had them set up for those that were a little bit older. These chairs are set up for you, and so it was introduced that way. Now, do you really think people want to be told that they are the older people and they need to sit down while everyone? So we ended up having all these empty chairs at the front, and it was quite awkward, and it didn't. The aesthetics were not as great, so we had to kind of shuffle a little bit to make it look around.
And to that point, Nate, preparation is about knowing how many chairs there will actually be and who are the people that will sit on the chairs. That is good preparation. I'll always ask my couple who exactly will sit on the chairs because you can't say it's for the older. You can't say it's for the special. You can't say it's for family because some people are close family and some people are not so close family. So I always ask my couple to actually give me the names of who's going to be sitting on the chairs so that I know to invite them to actually take their places or put their names on the chairs so that they know. Otherwise, people won't sit, and you end up with if you don't herd them in, it's not very intimate.
I remember having to do that at this particular wedding. We had to tell people, hey, look, could you please just go and sit? Because otherwise the photographer is going to be there taking photos of the audience. And it's going to look really weird having these empty chairs and everyone standing behind them.
And of course, the couple think people didn't come to their wedding because the chairs are empty at the front.
Okay, so a couple other restrictions I'll throw in there. So be aware with it because a lot of this is for rituals. So some of the rituals that people might want to have might include candles, for example. So can they light a fire? Can they light a candle? In the venue? Make sure you've asked the venue beforehand whether or not that's appropriate. Animals, they might want an animal. A wedding I did in Mullaney recently, they had a ceremony joining, a child that was out of wedlock to them, and they wanted to make it a part of the marriage ceremony. They were becoming one, and the dog and their pet dog. So it was all like one family: the child, the dog, and the bride and groom. Yeah, so we had to, of course, get permission from the venue first. So those sort of restrictions are things to think
Yeah.
about as
Yeah.
well when you contact the venue. You should contact the venue. Don't just allow, the couple
tell you.
to relay the messages.
Yeah.
You need to contact the venue yourself.
If you haven't been there before, yeah, you
If
need
you-
to be
yes.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And should, or dare I say, or dare I not say, if you're outside, the couples need to have booked the space that they're using in with the council.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't
Yes.
just rock up to a park or a beach.
Yeah.
It's got to be booked in. So the couple do that, but you should know. I always ask my couple for a copy of the booking sheet so that
Yeah.
I know that it's booked. And if anyone turns up to set up in the same place, you've got the booking sheet. You're able to say, well, this spot has been designated for this couple. Yeah.
Guess who gets the blame if you show up and it's not been booked and you have to get kicked out?
Yeah.
You'll get thrown under the bus. Yeah, the celebrant will
Yeah.
get thrown under the bus
Yeah.
because you're the one in control, the head.
Yeah.
Maybe not officially. You're just there to officiate the actual ceremony part of it, but you're looked to as the expert.
You're the leader.
So you should have
Yeah.
advised beforehand.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Cool. Now let's talk human resources.
Yeah.
Because these can be even more challenging than the venue itself. Let's talk about people. So, the musicians, the readers, the person running the playlist. Walk us through the kind of conversations that you need, or that we as celebrants need to have with them, what you ask, what you need to know from them, what they need to know from you, etc.
Okay, all right. Let's start with probably the simple things first. The witnesses. So you know who the witnesses are because you have their names on the forms, and they they may not have come to the rehearsal the day before, but you need to seek out the witnesses and explain to them that you're going to invite them over to the signing table during the ceremony, and you will invite them by name so they know who they are and when to come up. And you might get a chance to be able to explain to them where you would like them to stand during the witnessing. And of course, you'll direct that on the moment, but just preparing them in advance to where they're going to come to. And it also it gives you an opportunity to check whether there's going to be a challenge with the witnesses who may be coming up. You could have a grandmother who has a walker, and you're going to need to make sure there's room to get that walker up to the signing table. I'm going through some of the bigger challenges I've had. On the weekend on the beach, the mothers were signing and they were not very mobile and couldn't stand on the sand. So instead of the couple sitting down, we got the mothers to sit down and the couple stood either side of them just to make it work. All right. The person that's doing a reading, if there is someone doing a reading, you need to approach them. Do they have the reading with them? Are you supplying a copy? Do you have a backup for the reading in case they've forgotten it? Again, you're letting them know that you're going to invite them up when the time comes, and where are they going to stand? So if they weren't at rehearsal, you need to let them know in advance, where are they going to stand? How are you going to get the microphone to them, and where you will stand while they deliver the reading. So there's all that supporting information about how that's going to work in the ceremony. And consider where everyone is sitting. Is that person that's doing the reading in the middle of a pew 5 deep and they've got to clamber over people? So you might want to suggest that they're sitting in a position where they can get up and come up to the front very easily. Okay, so that's readings, that's witnesses. The person with the rings, if they didn't come to rehearsal, this is why rehearsal is so important. Who's got the rings? Do they have them on the day? You need to approach those people to make sure that the rings are there, and also let them know how they're going to approach you when you invite them to present the rings. How are they going to lift the lids on the boxes with the rings in, or untie the ribbons, or however those rings are presented, you need to know in advance what the challenges might be, and you need to talk that through with the people or persons bringing the rings up. Even if you did it at rehearsal, it's always good to do a refresh just before the ceremony begins.
Yeah, and you would be surprised how many people have been given assignments and they don't know they've been given an assignment.
Well,
Yeah.
and that speaks to the music, Nate.
Yeah,
So
well, that's a good segue to this is probably the most common one, assignment given, where the person doesn't know they've been given the assignment,
the
or
assignment,
maybe they were asked casually offhand like months
yeah.
ago, and now the day is there, and they're like, "Yeah, we told you back in March," and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
December. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay. How do I
speak to
operate
that.
the phone? Okay. So we know that the music is an integral part of the ceremony. There's going to be music for the processional, the signing, and the recessional. Okay. Sometimes before and after, but 3 songs. Now, you may offer the music as part of your package, and you might be the one that actually plays the music through your PA system. You've got it downloaded on a playlist, and all of your equipment is all ready to go for the day of the ceremony, no problems. You might have a couple that wish to have a family member play the music themselves. You need to know in preparation, do they have their own PA system? Are they going to hook into your PA system? Is it Bluetoothed? Does anyone actually use an audio connection anymore? An audio cord? Okay, maybe they do. Do they know that they're going to play the songs? Do they have a playlist that they can get without internet? Are they taking it from Spotify? Is that a paid version of
Yes.
Spotify
So
or
important to get the
Apple?
so
Yeah,
important. Let's restate this one
yeah,
because this has
go,
happened
mate.
before and
Yeah,
it probably happens many times. The person in charge of the music has a Spotify account but or an Apple Music account or YouTube Music, but it's not a paid one, it's a free one, so it comes with advertising. And the last
yeah,
thing you want them to do is press play on a song and an ad for or anything.
yeah.
But especially something awkward comes over the speakers.
Pops
So that's
up.
the
Yeah,
last thing we want.
yeah.
Yeah.
One more commercial before your 30 minutes of free
Yeah,
music
yeah,
time. Yeah, you do
yeah.
not want that to happen when the bride's about to walk up the
Yeah.
aisle.
This air
Um,
conditioning is the size of a lunchbox, and it has been created by a NASA scientist out of the University of Sydney. Yeah, come.
yeah, so we don't want that to happen. So if someone in the family is playing the music, it would be good for you to ask all of those questions or give all that sort of suggestion. How are they going to access the music? Is it a paid version or do they download it to their phone in a playlist so there won't be any problems? And if they're doing that, is their phone charged? Do they have connectivity? Is it Bluetooth? Like, how is this all going to work? You should know in advance how that's going to work so that you can ensure that the ceremony is going to run smoothly. Now, it could be that there is a live singer or a DJ that's been hired for the ceremony. In that case, I always, as my backup, Nate, even if someone else is doing it, I ask for the songs and I'll put the songs onto a playlist on my iPad, which is how I would normally deliver it for my couples, but I have it there as a backup. Now, once or twice over my career as a celebrant, the musician has either not shown up, double booked, or, for some reason, once I had a guitar string that actually broke on from the musician, so we had to go live with my playlist. It's just about being professional and being able to take the reins and keep the ceremony moving smoothly. Not necessarily your responsibility as a celebrant, but if you're standing there in front of 170 guests and all of a sudden something's gone wrong, what's your plan B? How are you going to continue the ceremony on? You're not going to stand there and say, well, I wasn't responsible for the music, so I'll just stand here until someone gets it fixed. No.
Oh, it
The
makes you
plan
look
B,
so good. Yeah, when you can
yeah,
take control of the
take
situation,
control and get
you
into it if it wasn't your
you'll get so many more gigs
responsibility.
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. You get so many
yeah,
more jobs out of it because you showed that you could take control in a situation
yeah.
that was going awry.
Yeah,
100%.
so yeah. And then Nate, if you're not playing the music as a celebrant, but you do have a live musician, you need to be interacting with them before the ceremony, and a professional musician will be looking to you as a celebrant to take the cues on
For the
when the
cues, yeah.
music's going to start, when it's going to stop.
Yeah.
Remember, there are 2 people then in that ceremony, the musicians and yourself, who are using microphones. So you need to be making eye contact and not overriding what the other person is doing. So there's some professional etiquette needed in those situations as well.
Oh, 100%. We did a wedding not too long ago in a park. My wife and I performed the song for the processional, and there was no rehearsal beforehand, but they timed it on the path, and the bride and them, they timed it beforehand. They said it's going to take X amount of time.
Oh, no,
so
I'm just on a thing about. So.
Oh, can we just ask Angela, can you just mute? We can actually hear you,
Yeah, thanks, Angela. And so we had it all timed. We had the song timed, and I guess you got to prepare for them to have nerves and to walk a little bit faster than they might in other times. And so they did, and they took like half the time that they had planned to get down there. And so we were playing an acoustic version on the guitar of Metallica's "Nothing Else Matters," and so we got through the verse and just started to get to the chorus, and she was there. So we had to quickly. We still had another verse to go, but you fade it out. So we simply finished it there, but in a way that tape it off. Obviously, you don't just cut it short and oh my goodness. And so a professional musician, yes, but often the couple is going to get their niece who's not really performed before. They might get a friend or something. They've got a really nice voice. That's a really nice song. They can play this, so they might not be used to performing in public. So it's good for the celebrant to have a word with them and talk about cues. I'm going to give you a little nod, and that's when you sort of fade out. And not just for a musician, but for someone controlling the music. Just to slowly turn. I don't want you to. When the bride gets there, the last thing I want you to do is press stop. The last thing I want you to do is turn the volume down as quickly as you can from 10 to 0. I want you to slowly fade it out. So it's nice and it's like a romantic fade out. All right. So have those words with the people. Even if you think they know what they're doing, just make sure you're all on the same page and know each other's cues.
Should never assume. You should never assume. There should be lots of communication, Nate.
Yeah, I had one actually when I introduced the bride and groom did not want to be introduced. They just wanted it wrapped up and said, and they wanted me to turn and say, okay, now everyone stand and applaud as Mr. and Mrs. so-and-so walk through. There was no introduction. Now introduce Mr. and Mrs. whatever. The wedding venue owner was the one taking care of the music. So she wasn't prepared for that because normally there's an introduction and then the music presses play. Now, I hadn't communicated. It was my fault, I would say, because I didn't tell her that there'd be no communication. It was like a last minute thing, that there'd be no introduction. Sorry, it was a last minute thing, but I still should have been aware, presence of mind to quickly speak. We've changed the cue. It's not this cue. They're just going to stand. Always be sharp.
Always that communication. Yeah. It's good to let a musician or another professional know what your script is like. They're saying vows, they're not saying vows. There's 10 people in the bridal party, so we've got a long entry piece of music, or just anything that's usual or unusual, so that the other service provider that you're working with has an idea of exactly what's going on. The photographer's exactly the same, Nate.
I was going to say, yeah, definitely with the photographer.
Yeah.
Let them know the script. Let them know the timing of everything, because you don't want them at the back of the room when you're going to do the witnessing. They got to be prepared for it. I mean, a good photographer wings it very well, and they kind of know the process, and they're always going to be in the right spot, and they'll see something and be quick onto it. But it helps things to run smoothly.
If you give them that rundown, it makes them feel confident that they've got a professional that they're working with as well.
That too, yes.
Yeah, you get a lot of good comments that will come back from another service provider. Thanks for running this so smoothly. Just they know that there's a professional that they're working with. It's usually like, wow, thanks for all that information. I'll get out of the way when we do the kiss. I'll get out of the way when I'm introducing them as Mr. and Mrs. They're going to hold the microphone when we do the vows, or they're not going to hold the microphone when we do the vows, or just all those little things that are in the ceremony. They might know some of it. They might know that the couple are going to walk back down the aisle and they're going to do a dip and a kiss halfway down the aisle, and everyone's going to throw the confetti then. But they probably already know that, but just to go back over, this is what we rehearsed what's going to happen. Yeah,
100%.
very well
Right.
received. Yeah.
Humans need those reminders. You know, we all do that. We all forget things. It doesn't matter how many times you've done something, how professional the photographer is, how professional you are as a celebrant, how professional the musician is. We're human. Human nature means that we're going to forget things or we're going to slip up. So we just got to all be
But the
learn to communicate.
professionalism, the
100%.
professionalism shows when you can just, my saying, catch the ball and run with it. So
Cool.
just keep moving and keep everything smooth.
All right. Now, Jean, we're doing really well with time, but I want to go into really quickly. You're gonna smash through this. I want a checklist of what is in your celebrant emergency kit. So what do you have on hand to prepare for those little emergencies that are often not thought of? And so anyone that's done first aid, been doing it for many years. I remember the first time I did first aid would have been I was 50 this year. I would have been 20, I guess, so 30 years ago, and it was remember the acronym was Dr. ABC. Anyone that's done, I've seen a few head nods that have done it many years ago. Dr. ABC, right? And then the defibrillators came along, so they put a D on the end of it for defibrillator, CPR defibrillator. And then, I don't know, I want to say 10, 15 years ago, they added a letter. And anyone that's been doing first aid consistently might remember this. And the letter was a simple S. They put an S in there, Dr. S. So why is it doctors A, B, C, D? Because there was an assumption that people didn't need to be told what this S stood for, that they would do it automatically, but they were finding that people were forgetting this very vital step. And the S stands for send for help. So people were going through the method, but they were forgetting to call 000. And then getting through the whole thing and giving CPR, and there's no ambulance coming because it's just and this happens at weddings. We might show up to a wedding and that someone's forgotten something, we've forgotten something, we haven't considered certain elements. So what do you have to prepare for that, Jean?
Okay, well, I do have a little first aid kit that has, all the essential band-aids, things like that. But
literal first aid kit.
Literal first aid kit. But just very quickly, as the celebrant, you would be the one directing all the calls. You would be the one saying, "Can you call? Can you do this? Can you do that?" So you need to stay in control while all the busy people get everything done. But anyway, we have spare batteries for anything that's battery operated in my kit. Spare pens, stingos, band-aids, all those little things that are in the first aid kit. I have hairspray. I have glasses, like reading glasses for the couple that forget their glasses and they can't read their vows. I have a corded microphone, so when the Bluetooth thing doesn't work, we can go to a corded microphone if that's needed. I take the cables for my plug-in microphone and extension cords and a power bank, just in case my big batteries on the PA system don't work, and we can plug in anywhere as long as we're not on a beach. We can plug in anywhere, and with your power board, you're able to plug in all of your things with one. You don't have to take it off maybe the musician or anything like that. Wet ones, spare rings.
Spare rings. So
Spare rings for the person.
So not real ones. Well, just toy ones that look good. Yeah.
You can get, I'm sure many people here have heard me talk about the ones you can get from Big W in a pack of about a dozen, gold, silver, big, little. They're just something that you could pull out if you needed to, because the ring exchange is a photo opportunity. Don't worry about the emotions that go with forgetting about the rings, but if we could put something on their finger at that moment, that will get us through the situation of the ring exchange at that moment. I have tent pegs. I have torches, a torch. I have binoculars. And that's a story in itself. Some of you might have heard my story about why I put binoculars in there. I have what else have I got in there? Mints. I have
Not
sun cream.
mince meat. She's talking
No,
about like
mint,
minties. Yeah,
minty,
like Tic Tacs.
minty
Just in case
lollipop
some of you
cake.
thought you
Yeah,
might get some beef mince
yeah,
or something and
yeah,
put in there.
yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah.
making sure.
Obviously, a bottle of water, always
Yep.
a bottle of water, so we can keep hydrated without having too much water that you need to go to the toilet before the ceremony starts. So hydration, so that you can actually speak clearly through the ceremony.
And I would even say a spare little bottle of water just to give to the groom or someone where they're waiting, because they can get very
Yeah,
nervous.
yeah,
Just a little one that you can carry and
yeah,
hide behind the stage
yeah.
or wherever you're standing.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
in case. If you're
yeah.
in a venue, a coordinator will usually look after that. But
Often they will.
you know,
Yeah.
if you're in the middle of nowhere, I have a sewing kit. I have scissors. I have chalk. I have marking pens. Chalk for marking the ground. Um, I have a little. Did I say tent pegs? Little tent pegs for the signs that say, Emily and Mitchell married today, that someone puts up before the ceremony. It usually blows over 100 times before the ceremony starts. So a couple of tent pegs, and I also have a little mallet that I can use to put the tent pegs in. I have golf tees that I use to mark the spot on the grass where people might be standing, where the bridal party might stand. Hair combs, yeah. How long do you want me to keep going on? It is on wheels, my little survival kit.
Yeah.
Lint brushes, spare ribbons, bobby pins, safety pins.
Great. Okay.
It keeps going. Yeah,
She's well prepared. And this has all come off the back of Jean obviously having done a bazillion weddings, like I said before, and so have met every single issue that is out there.
You add something new to it each time. Now,
Yep.
the other thing that's been happening at weddings, and it's something now that I address with my couples, the couples who are doing their own styling. Okay, they're going to set the arbor up. Mum's going to set the arbor up, or best friend's going to do it.
Yeah.
We're outside in a park or on a beach. Those arbors blow over 99.9% of the time. They blow over, and no one's ever got weights or tent pegs to hold them up. So I've got my tent pegs, but the last couple of weddings I did that were off the beach but still on the foreshores of the beach, I've, as crazy as this sounds, I've got little Hessian bags that we could quickly scoop up sand with and make little sandbags to put over the top of the feet of the arbors so that they don't blow over. Now, that might be crazy because it's not the celebrant's responsibility to make sure the arbor stands up, but it's really distressing to watch people try and get those arbors up in the wind. They're not going to stand up unless you've got weights or tent pegs. Tent pegs don't work on the beach. You need sand weights to actually hold them up.
Yeah.
So it's just another one of those little things.
And depending on where you're going, of course. Jean's listed a whole big list of items that are part of her kit, first aid kit. Now, you're not going to take all of those items to every single wedding. Of course, it's always venue dependent.
If I go to a venue that has a chapel and a coordinator, I'm not going to need half of those things because I know that all of those things are, going to be pretty handy in a venue. So depends on where you're going.
All right, cool. Thank you, Jean. Look at our time. I want to get to some Q&A in a sec. So maybe we'll finish off with I'll jump in with, well, already talked about just the basic setup of a PA, and I see that there are some Q&A questions about PA. So we'll finish talking about that. I guess some of what I was going to talk about might come up in the answers that we're giving to these questions. So instead, what I wanted to talk about was microphone technique and preparing yourself to be able to talk into a microphone so that you are clear, you are understandable, that you're communicating, that your message gets across. Okay, so some of the things that need to happen, again, there are lots of different, I guess, vocal techniques that we could talk about. There's of course tonal quality, there's modulation, there's projection, there's volume, there are these things, and so if you look up vocal techniques, you can learn and discover all the elements that you need to put together to create a good speaking voice. Because essentially, you are a public speaker. As a celebrant, you are a public speaker, right? So you need to be able to talk to audiences. But one of the ones that often gets missed out is articulation. Now, we think articulation is just being able to pronounce a word. It is more than that. But if I can start there, when it comes to pronouncing words, the most important words that you need to pronounce on a wedding day are the couple's names. Of course, and you're going to get some hairy ones. You're going to get some difficult ones, especially last names. My wife is Latina, so, you know, a lot of the family have some quite tricky names, but I've learned how to roll my R's, so I'm good with it. But one of the things that you can do to prepare is to write out the couple's names, or anyone's names, participants, whether it's a reader or anyone that you have to introduce. Write it out phonetically, especially if you're unsure of how to pronounce it. Write it out phonetically next to their name so that you can, you know, I had a groom. His name was Moarcy. So I had to say, is that Moaki? Is it Moasi? Is it Moakai? How do I say that? And he said it's Moasi. So I wrote MOW-RSEA. That's how I was able to remember Moasi. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So be prepared for that. All right. Now, let's just have a little bit of fun to close this before we go to Q&A. I want to talk about some articulation exercises that you can do to prepare yourself for speaking into the mic. Firstly, let's talk about some of the things that you need to avoid, and that is speaking harshly into a mic. Some of the harsh sounds that can come through a mic when you're not prepared. So there are two things that I want to talk about, two words, plosives and fricatives. Now, some of you may have heard these terms before, some of you maybe not. They're quite unusual words. I like them. Plosives as in explosive, and fricative as in frickin' heck. So the plosives are, you have the letters P, B, T, D, K, and G. So as in the hard G, G. Okay, so P, P, B, B, T, D, K, G. Those are called plosives. And plosives use strong bursts of air. All right. There's a little bit of closure before it opens and pop. That's why it makes a popping sound. Overemphasizing them can cause loud pops on microphones. But a controlled plosive articulation allows you to speak clearly without distorting the audio. When you're a musician, when you're singing in a studio, what they'll often do is they'll get these pop filters. Anyone in here there's 80 of you in here, so I'm sure some of you musicians may have recorded in the studio before or done some vocal work in the studio. You might remember the old days where we used to get a coat hanger and then some ladies' pantyhose and used to wrap it around the coat hanger and create this filter between your mouth and the microphone. And nowadays you can just buy a pop filter and stick it on the mic. You don't have that. It'll look quite silly in an open air environment or at a ceremony. You don't want that. So you're going to be speaking directly into the mic. So you need to know how to control these sounds, these strong bursts of air. So the do's, simple. Use gentle, controlled bursts of air. If you're saying, Peter, we want to welcome you to perform your song, you wouldn't lean into the mic when you say Peter or perform. You would avoid it. You just move your mouth slightly. I was supposed to bring a microphone with me.
And don't eat peanut butter beforehand, Nate.
Oh, yeah, well, we can talk about, that's another, maybe we better leave that for another day, like talking about what to eat and what not to eat beforehand, but definitely not peanut butter. You don't want your roof, your mouth sticking together. But yeah, you don't want to lean in and say, Peter. If you lean in and say, Peter, guess what? The audience is going to hear this popping sound in their ears. It's going to be very, very annoying. Peter, can you come and do your performance? Oh, it's grating. So P and B are the worst ones. The other ones, not so much. So you want to control that P. Peter. See how I just rolled off the P instead of hitting it hard? Peter, instead of Peter. I hope you're hearing that distinction there. So it's something to play with. And the way to practice it is simple. Tongue twisters. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. And what you want to avoid when you're doing this, it's not about trying to say it as fast as you can. Yeah, I see some of your lips moving. That's what I'm hoping for. So we do it as fun, as a game, right? We say Peter Piper picked a pick of peppers. We try to say it as fast as we can as a game. That's not the point of this. What you're trying to do is say Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You're trying to roll off the P without hitting it too hard. All right. Big bad bugs bit the bald bear. All right. So find a couple of plosive, heavy tongue twisters like Peter Piper and Big Bad Bugs, and practice those before you get onto your microphone. You'll see a massive difference. And then secondly, the fricatives. This is the ones that give us sort of a harsh hissing spike through the microphone. So a fricative creates a narrow friction in the mouth. It can become sharp or hissy on microphones, but a good control avoids harsh S's and stops you from sounding like, I remember I loved that Robin Hood, Disney Robin Hood movie.
Seashells on the seashore.
Sally sells seashells on the seashore is a good tongue twister to use there. But yeah, I remember the Robin Hood Disney cartoon Robin Hood, and the I think it was the mayor was a snake, and he's always speaking like this. If you hold your S's or your sh or your z or your th for too long on a microphone and you don't pull off it, it's like grating to the ears, to all who are listening to it. All right. So make sure you're not holding on to, you're not like, what's that tongue twister? You said Sally. You don't want to be going, Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Now, it might seem really quick and might seem trivial, but it's not. It comes through really harsh through the microphone. So do not. Sally sells, make sure you're dropping off it very quickly. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Much nicer to listen to. One day when we do another webinar, we'll talk about other sounds like lateral and liquid sounds, which are always fun to talk about. How to hold your tongue and those sort of things. We can get into those sort of nitty gritties, but I wanted to leave you with those two, the plosives and the fricatives. Work on those. Work on holding the mic and making sure you don't, a couple other little mic techniques, don't hold the bell of the mic, you cover up the bass. Don't pretend you're a rapper or someone like, holding the mic like this. Make sure you hold the handle if you're holding it, or just leave it in the holder.
And of course, if you've got a transmitter and receiver, that will dictate where your hands are going on the microphone as well.
That's true too.
Yes.
Yes.
You don't block your connection.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Cool. And the proximity. Yeah. So that's called the proximity effect, where you put your mouth to mic. Okay. Cool. Now we've got some Q&As, I believe. A lot of them have been answered on YouTube, I think, but we've got some within this forum here. We've got a couple of minutes to answer as many questions as we can. Are you ready, Jean? It's got to be quick fire answers.
I can't see the questions, Nate.
I'm going to read them out. I'll read them out to you.
Yeah, okay.
I'll read them out to you as articulately as possible. I wanted to do the pen trick too. We didn't have time to do the pen.
That's very good, that one. Yeah.
That's a fun one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Maybe for the next video we'll do that.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you this one trick. Right before you go and speak into a microphone and do a public performance, I want you to do this trick. Get a clean pen, stick it between your teeth, read a passage from a book of some sort. I'll do it and read a question. That's how we're going to do it. Okay? So ready? And then what you do, you take it out of your mouth and you're going to find that you're articulating so much better and clearer. Okay, so from Louise Carter. Louise says, if I don't have a PA system yet, what do you recommend in terms of hiring a PA? If I don't have a PA system yet, what do you recommend in terms of hiring a PA? We don't recommend hiring. We recommend investing. But if you have to, you have to. But the hire fee, it's, you're going to hire one 3 times before you pay it off, 3 or 4 times maybe max before you would have paid what you would pay for getting it outright.
And if you do hire, make sure you test it. Don't test it 5 minutes before the wedding. Test it before you take it.
Never use unfamiliar equipment.
Yeah.
Always be familiar with it. So Louise followed up with that. I'm new, so I don't know. I could use the venue's PA system, but I'd be unfamiliar with it.
Yes. Again,
good observation.
Test it. Some venues won't let you touch the buttons that Nate was talking about at the beginning. Some venues will set it, and they I've got a couple that I work with, and they actually lock the system away and they give you the microphone. So you have to work with the volume and the tones that they set for you. So you need to know in advance what you're working with.
Has anyone, this is from Harry Solanakis, has anyone found that when a videographer wants to link a microphone to your microphone, sometimes the Bluetooth drops out on the speaker?
Yes, it
Yep.
does. Yes, it does. And again, if you're having that happen, you need to do a test well before the ceremony starts. And you'll find on my PA system, there's like about a 30-second lag for some reason. So if I turn my microphone on, I've got a time delay before I actually get volume. So if that happens, you need to test it before you go live with it. If you can't get it to work, then you've got to get the videographer to get off your system. But you need to be aware of it before the ceremony starts. It's preparation. Yeah.
Does anyone use a PA? This is from Bernice Simpkins. Does anyone use a power station for when no power is available?
Yes, I do. Power banks.
Oh, a power bank for your phone and that sort of thing.
If that's what she's meaning. No,
an actual power station.
Yeah, we've got one. We've got one that we take camping just to look after the fridge or whatever.
Yep.
Those are actually quite good. They're expensive.
Good backup.
But they're good backup, so why not? But at the same time, that's if you don't have a battery-powered PA, which a lot of celebrants are using these days. I prefer, being a musician, we prefer wired and stuff. Yeah. But
you really need a battery-powered PA system because, you don't know where you're going to be. Ceremonies than
on
not,
the beach.
In other places other than a venue with a power outlet. Yeah.
Alison Lindqvist says, if you are inside the venue, would they normally have a PA set up for you? I think we kind of answered that one sometimes, but it's still important to take your own. You might find you like your own better.
I don't ever use the venue's power system, Nate, PA system. Mine is set for me, and I know it's exactly the way I want it. Some venues will have awesome PA systems and some will have pretty bad ones. So you should be self-sufficient.
Yes,
you're a
100%.
professional. You should be self-sufficient.
Yes.
If you can,
Alison also says, Jean, you must have a very big bag. I'm assuming she's talking about the first aid kits and not when you smuggle your husband on the plane to be a roadie. Sharon Meldrum, must be, I wonder if she's related to Sharon. You're related to Molly. Is it unusual for those involved? You're not in your head, are you really? How cool is that? Is it unusual for those? Not cool at all. Okay, right. We won't ask you what your relationship is. Is it unusual for those involved in the ceremony, i.e., ring bearers, people doing readings, etc., to not attend the rehearsal?
Yeah,
it's not unusual.
It's not unusual.
And how long? Sorry, second part, Jean. How long does the rehearsal usually run for? Yeah.
A good, well-structured rehearsal will go between half an hour to 45 minutes. So I always get my couple to allow 45 minutes, and you should structure your rehearsal. This is what we're going to do. Have a plan so that you can tick it off. Sign the declaration first, and then have your plan. All the things that you're going to cover from beginning to end, so that you look like you know what you're doing, and you can keep the 45 minutes in control.
That's it. And you don't have to go over all the. You have to say this is where the reading is, but you don't have to go over it.
No,
and what you definitely don't do.
It's the physical movement of everything that's happening. Yeah.
Yes, and what you definitely don't do, just to close that question, is read out the monotum or the legal vows. Otherwise, you're officially marrying them in that moment.
The couple are officially married when you filled out a noim and it's signed. The couple are officially married when the monotum and the legal vows have been said. They are married at that point under the law.
100%.
Yeah.
Lynn Williams, we've got two more questions. Lynn Williams, read your survival kit, Jean. Where do you keep this? Thinking of the reading glasses, etc. I'm assuming you must keep it close to you or some of it at the ceremony.
Oh, yes. And again, that's preparation before the ceremony. So if I know the venue, I know where I'm going to keep it close by where I can get to it if I need to. So it's usually with my PA system, wherever it's set up. But I also make sure that my bag is pink, gold and white, so it blends in. It's not a big black, green, bright orange box that everyone can see. So I make sure that it's close by with me. And again, it depends on where I am.
Indiscreet. Yeah, you want it to be discreet. Yeah.
Discreet, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And lastly, Cara Williams says, we've got two Williams. I'm sorry if I missed this, Jean, but do you have a list written, saved somewhere that we could please reference?
I don't have a list, but we could make up a list, Nate, and
That'd be fun. Let's
yeah.
attach it to one of the tasks in the
Yeah.
That's my job. Thanks a lot, Cara. Give me another job to do. Appreciate it.
We'll put it in the student resources. Hey, Nate.
Thanks a lot, Cara. All right. Well, everyone, we are so glad that you joined us today. We are really happy to have had you, all 80-something of you that joined today. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you as students. We'll look out for your assessments coming through if you're still a student. For those that are currently celebrants, maybe waiting on registration, good luck with that. Those of you that are registered, great. Good luck finding more and more work. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know about your first job or anything interesting. We want to hear your stories. It's great to hear stories from our students that have gone on. Cool. All right, Jean, thank you for being
Thanks,
here
Nate.
today. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Nate.
See you guys. Bye. And cool.